This is Walking the Ground with General Grant, and today I'm speaking with National Park Service Historian Emeritus Ed Bars. We're having a conversation. Mr. Bars, today is
Yes, General.
Today is March 4th. In 2 months, I plan to move against Lee, cross the Rapidan, and engage him. Have you any advice for me about engaging Lee?
Yes, my advice to you on engaging General Lee. I have not had very good luck with picking commanders of particularly the Army of the Potomac, which is probably the most important army for affecting the election this fall.
Indeed.
And so I would like it if you, and that is why I worked with Congressman Washburn to get legislation reestablished the rank of Lieutenant General.
Yes, Elihu Washburn is my champion in Congress.
And that's very good because he was a good help to you several times when you were in some difficulties.
Indeed.
And he introduced the legislation, managed it through, and that's why you've been named Lieutenant General, General Officer Commanding of the Army. And your mission is to make sure that we have either won the war or showing significant progress on winning the war long before Election Day, because I know our opponents are going to make if the war is still going, and it appears no closer to being over now than it will now, that I will undoubtedly go down to defeat, because I know that no president since Andrew Jackson has served 2 terms.
Mr. Lincoln is greatly concerned about being reelected and has indicated that to me.
Yes, and so my idea is that don't turn back once you cross the Rapidan, and hopefully you can coordinate some type of operation. And I know you're going to, at my suggestion, you're going to meet with General Sherman in about 2 weeks and make some plans of coordinating your operations, such that it will not happen as happened on the eve of the Battle of Chickamauga, when General Lee was able to detach Longstreet with 2 divisions, bring in troops from a large number of areas, and when it looked like we might well end the war in '63, seriously embarrass us at the Battle of Chickamauga. I also would advise you that I advise you don't get too overconfident. I remember my visit with General Hooker when Julia and I came down from Washington in the second week of April, and I admired what you'd done to revive the Army of the Potomac from its terrible situation under General Rosecrans, under General Burnside. And I would want to again emphasize Lee's army is your objective. Richmond is important, but when you make Lee's army your objective, he's going to have to defend Richmond. And I hope you are a success. I do not want you to waste as General Meade, and that's why I did not consider General Meade for this position, because he did not follow up the success he had at Gettysburg. And in fact, this message, congratulation he sent to his troops, is counterproductive, because he will congratulate his troops for winning the Battle of Gettysburg, well and good, and then calls on them for further exertion to drive the invaders from our soil. My God, what does the man mean? It's all our soil. So I want you to be aggressive but cautious.
A question. I'm considering going through the wilderness rather than around the valley. Do you think Lee would hit me in the wilderness?
I am sure he probably will, because you, by going through the wilderness, you cover one of my worries, that your army, General Meade's army, will always be between Washington and General Lee. So I do not have to worry much about General Lee appearing closer to Washington than you are, than Meade's army is. And so I think you're being wise on trying the direct route to Richmond, and because it's going to force General Lee to fight.
Well, my thinking is that should I choose to go through the wilderness, take the shorter route, that Lee will have just as much to lose as I.
Yes, he will have just as much to lose as you do, and as I've always told my generals, beginning with General McClellan, I will give them what they need if they just use what I give them, what they need.
Indeed.
And I think that's important, that you will understand that I am the commander-in-chief by the Constitution, and therefore I'm responsible to a higher order than you are, and if you do if you get a hold of Lee, keep a hold of Lee, and I will see that you're supported.
Well, thank you, Mr. Boris. I appreciate you taking the President's point of view, and should I decide to go through the wilderness, I will keep in mind, don't be overcautious or overconfident, and don't turn back.
Don't turn back, and and that's the important thing. You're going to have a hold of Lee, and you're not going to let him go. And that's hopefully you will keep a hold of him, and you will have settled that problem with the Army of Northern Virginia before Election Day. And hopefully, if General Sherman, operating in the West, can deal with those Confederates down in Georgia, the voters will see that although it's a long, hard road, I know the soldiers. The soldiers know me, and if they have suffered terrible losses too, and they, in their minds, many of them are no closer to ending the war than they were back when General McClellan was in command of the army.
Well, I shall fight my army, and as I engage, I'll remember there'll be no turning back.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Ed Boris, Historian Emeritus for the National Park Service.
Thank you.
And this has been Walking.
And you would say, since we're looking into the future, the most important day for General Grant is on the 7th day of May.
I'll keep that in mind.
When he does not turn back.
Very good. This has been Walking the Ground with General Grant. and Ed Bars.